Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this technical webinar. We will kick off shortly. We're just letting everyone register and get connected into the session. So Elijah, our specialist for today, will start sharing his screen as soon as he's ready. But we'd just like to say to you to grab a cup of coffee, and we'll probably start in the next 2 to 3 minutes, the session. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning. Just want to confirm that you guys can hear us from a sound perspective. So if someone can just confirm they're hearing me nicely.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, Frank. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
All right. So we're going to, Elijah's going to share his screen as soon as he'll start sharing shortly within the next minute or so. We're just going to give it 1 more minute, and then we'll kick off to discuss what's new in the infrastructure solutions for this year. Okay. So Elijah, good morning.
Good morning, Abigail. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, let me log in shortly. So share my screen shortly.
Sure. Elijah, you can start when you're ready. I think we have enough people to kick off the session.
Mhm. Okay, let me know once you can see my screen.
I
Yes, you
can
can.
see it. And it's in
Mhm.
presentation mode now, Elijah. Good to go.
That's great. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us in this session. So it will be very simple, but just trying to highlight what is new in the Infra 2024 release, which I think some of us might have already put our hands on the new releases, or maybe some of us are still not so much familiar with what's happening or what's new. So that's why I'll take this moment to give you an idea of what came out in form of presentation, but I'll also show some two features live. So meaning that I'll log into InfraWorks and Civil 3D and show them live at some point. So the infrastructure solution that I'll focus on are in InfraWorks, Civil 3D, and Recap Pro, where we saw some very good improvement and some new features being added that were not there in the previous versions that I think are very, very important and would make work more easier for our existing customers, and can also be some good selling points, especially when talking to the new prospects that maybe we have in our pipelines. So I'll just go straight away, start quickly with the InfraWorks. So as I mentioned, I'll just use the overall presentation to give a highlight of some of the key features that came out. Then towards the end, I'll go into InfraWorks and Civil 3D to show one feature each on the two applications. That is one on Civil 3D and one on InfraWorks. Then the rest you're able to pick up, and maybe if need be, I can be able to show them at maybe at individual level, those who might be interested in how to work with them. So as always, the main aim of having these new features and new improvement, just to ensure that there is increased design optimization and also to increase productivity. So that's why I think Rhodes keeps on doing a lot of investment in research and also coming up with these new features. And that's why it's also very important that we keep our customers on the new releases or new updates so that they're able to optimize their designs and also increase on productivity. So these are the list of the new features. So the specific one starting from the productivity point of view in terms of measurements tool. So if you remember previously in InfraWorks, we were not able to pick up elevation points by measuring. So you'd have to maybe check on contours along the contour lines to be able to pick up elevation. So it's one of the improvements that I think are very, very important. So you're able to quickly measure elevation at a point. So maybe if I'm designing a road or a bridge, I want to understand a point elevation of 1 point. I'm able to pick up and define that. So I'll be able to show that live, which I think is very, very important that we make use of it, especially if you want to understand the overall terrain, or maybe with respect to what you're designing. Or for example, if I want to understand let's say maybe I'm designing or modeling a bridge, I'd want to understand the existing elevation and then the elevation that I'm proposing, either to be able to quickly get an understanding of what maybe the vertical clearance will be with respect to maybe a particular bridge or element that you're modeling. So I'll be able to show that live. Then there's the display of optional custom part parameters. So it basically means that you're able to choose what some custom objects that may be shown, some might be hidden, especially if you do not want to show the entire model with respect to what you are having within it. Then also there's the improved support for Revit families. And I think it's the most important feature that I also like, though I might not show it live. It keeps on getting better. I think also when we discussed what was new in the 2023 last year, where we saw that we are still very sure that most of the time you need to work with the inventor to be able to customize and do your parametric custom shapes. But I think as the years goes by, we are seeing a situation where very soon I'm very sure we will be able to eliminate inventor completely from the bridge design workflow. So that you remain just between Revit and InfraWorks for the modeling and the detailing part. So these are very significant improvement which ensures that most of the Revit families can now be interpreted and worked with within InfraWorks. And right now you're also able to do category mapping. So you can categorize them, whether they are girders, piers, based on the specific structural component of the bridge that you'll be having within the model. Then in terms of design optimization, we have there's improvement in terms of checking updates, especially if you have to check updates between InfraWorks and Revit, or between InfraWorks and the structural bridge design. So it's getting better and it's also getting faster. And I think it's a very significant improvement that was made with the current release. So I'll just take a quick look at this, but I said especially for the first one here, that I'll show live how it works. So remember, again, this was the release which was made in 2024. Sorry, in 2023, where we're able to clip geometry and have a cross-sectional view of our structures within Revit, sorry, within InfraWorks. So the addition into it is that once you have clipped it, you are now able to measure the elevation. So like, that's what I was saying, that I want to maybe understand the overall elevation of my girders, the elevation of my overall maybe bridge deck, or the elevation of maybe the foundation of the bridge that I'm working on. It's something that's very new, and I think is very, very important. So it just uses the snaps to a particular point of interest. So if I want to understand that specific instant, maybe the specific point or a spot elevation, you're able to pick up and do that. So it operates in both 2D and 3D planes, but I'll show it when we're on 2D, sorry, on 3D, which I think is the overall intention of having it in place. So this basically helps you to identify critical geometry within the model without having to, like previously when you want to understand the elevation, really you had to go into Revit, import the surface with respect to the bridge, then you're able to start understanding the overall terrain, elevations, and what you are proposing. So I think this makes it, that's what we're calling is a kind of a design optimization. So you're able to increase on the design process of whatever you are working on. Then the second improvement is in terms of the display of a custom part parameters. So this is where once you maybe customized, for example, you have an abutment that you modeled for a particular bridge structure, you're able to choose specific component to be shown. Like maybe, let's say it's the seat for my abutment. So maybe you can also choose not to show maybe the abutment piles. So it's basically help you to show what you want at any instant while hiding the others. So it also help you to avoid duplication, because you've seen some cases where you can't be able to turn on and off some objects. You could be having a situation where objects are replicating themselves. So it enhances the accuracy and error-free modeling, which again will ensure that whatever the kind of model you're working with is very accurate, and also increase the productivity, the process of producing the component of your structure. But I think the key advantage of it is just to ensure that there is no duplicate component of your model, because if I turn off the overall abutment view, it means I can do to look at the specific component of it. Like I'm using example, maybe the seat, the wing walls, or maybe the approach slab, which will allow you to identify and select each of them one by one as you hide off the rest. And I think this stands out as one of the biggest improvements so far, where I'm saying that we are seeing an increased productivity and operation between InfraWorks and Revit coming in, because if you remember, those who started off with the infrastructure in the 2018-2017, we needed to rely entirely on Inventor to be able to create custom shapes and families. So right now, I think that's what I'm really focusing on, because it means that you no longer, at some point, maybe I'm very sure maybe the 2025 release, we will no longer need to have Inventor in the picture, because once you're able to model and generate families from within Revit, it means that all my customization and creation of parametric parts don't really need me to go into the Inventor. I can entirely just work between InfraWorks and Revit to ensure that I develop all kind of shapes and parametric objects that I might need to use within the workflow. So it means that you don't need to again learn, like I know that's the problem that we have mentioned, that putting Inventor in the structural bridge process has always meant that either you need to again go for Inventor itself or purchase the PDMC. as part of the maybe substitution for the AEC collection. So also you don't have to maybe think of learning additional product, because most of the engineers are already familiar with Revit, especially developing of the families. So I think it remains to be a very critical improvement that ensures that most of those familiar tool set within Revit are now going to be applied within the overall infrastructure without having to incorporate the inventor within the picture. So again, remember, parametric means that the model, remember, will remain synced between Revit and InfraWorks, so that even if I go back and make the change on that particular custom shape or the family, it automatically synchronizes back with what I've already done within InfraWorks as well. So just ensures efficiency in terms of creating the models while using one consistent tool set. So also there is the refinement in terms of category mapping, which again is also very, very critical. So before, if you remember, when you import InfraWorks model into Revit, or to keep that sync between Revit and InfraWorks, you are not able to categorize the elements into either abutment, pier, girders, or the deck. So I think this now makes it easier that by default, when I'm linking up from Revit, from InfraWorks into Revit, it means automatically the various category of the component of the bridge will be mapped, so that if I'm modifying or making changes, or I'm reviewing abutment, I just go to the specific category map where they're going to be located. The same way we currently see them within InfraWorks. That's exactly how I'd also have a view of the same in Revit as well. So subcomponents in an inventor simply can now be assigned separate Revit categories, and also different generic models within InfraWorks can also be assigned different categories once you import them within Revit, and back and forth as well. Yeah. So I think it's a very good improvement. So you don't have to keep on trying to categorize them immediately after having imported. So that automatically happens within the synchronization process between Revit and InfraWorks within the modeling process. Okay. So also these videos are available. Maybe if you have access to Partner Center, you can watch them, or if you just access, if you have access to the Autodesk civil infrastructure page with more details, and also maybe like kind of a short tutorial, maybe I'll share the links with you. Basically just giving the overall picture of, or with more details or finer details someone wants to try out. And also, even if you check on Partner Center, they even give you with the sample data set that you're able to utilize to just understand the specific updates and improvements that were made. So like that's the elevation measurements at instant point that you're interested in. After having clipped the geometry, so it means you're kind of having an overall cross-sectional view of the elevation, then you're able to measure it out in terms of the spot elevation. Then this is the feature where you're able to hide. Then the parametric family creation within Revit. So it means that I'm able to completely create a family from within Revit and then link it up for use in InfraWorks without having to rely on Inventor. So I think this is one of the biggest improvement that I really liked within the 2024 release. And you can see the categorization, whether it's a bridge, girder, and then once it's brought in, you're able to see it automatically applies the same process of either applying it to the entire section of the girders group or one specific girder. The process remains the same once it's imported, it's brought in within the InfraWorks model. So it means that right now I can create this. Initially, we needed to bring in Inventor to be able to complete that with parametric modeling of customization, but right now you don't need to do that. Then there's the category mapping. So category mapping where I need to choose whether it's abutment, a girder, a pier, so that I'll be able to have specific groups of related objects within one specific. Then the next in terms of checking updates. So where we said is very much efficient right now. So like where I'm moving from one shape to a different type of section from within Revit and InfraWorks, it's right now very fast. Initially it used to drag or take some few seconds before it finally brings in the last model component. So I think it makes it very, very fast as compared to what we had at that instant. So with that, I can quickly just say, as I said, I'd want to highlight one or two features. So I'll just get off the presentation and show quickly one or two on InfraWorks, which I think would be very, very relevant. So they're just kind of enhancements, but relatively new also. So like I said, that within 2023, we had the release of the geometry clipping. So I've just got a simple bridge structure here, which I want to use to illustrate the two. So like, if I want to clip, like, I don't know, maybe if you have tried it out, I'm saying it was done in 2023. So elevation or geometry clipping or plane clipping was released in 2023. But in the 2024, we are now seeing a situation where we can be able to even add the skew, like if my bridge is skewed, is not perpendicular to the bottom geometry. And then we are able to measure the elevation. So I'll just do elevation clipping. So I'll just say add clipping plane. So you can see immediately I say add clipping plane, it allows me, or it asks me where exactly do I want it clipped. So maybe I'll just repeat that. So you just select your bridge structure, then you just right click. Then once you right clicked, you choose, sorry, just a moment. So the bridge, right click and choose from the menu bar that appears, add clipping plane. So once you click add clipping plane, you can click at any specific point that you might be interested in seeing the cross section. So like maybe I want to see it across this abutment, so across this pier. So I'll just click. And once I've clicked, I might choose whether I want to show the terrain and surface layers also being clipped at the plane, or I just want to have the bridge geometry only. And then there is the tool here, which allows you to either reverse the geometry clipping direction or just maintain it with a keyboard shortcut of, if you click R at this instant, this can mean to reverse. So like right now I'm reversing means it takes the opposite side, or if I reverse back, it takes the other side. Okay, so like right now my bridge is skewed. So if my bridge is skewed, it means the best way to completely show the clip at the abutment is to define the skew angle, which in this case I think is around 7 degrees. So I'll just type 7 degrees, then I'll enter. So you can see it tries to orientate it so that I'm able to see the cross section in a more clear way. Then once I've done that, there is this red arrow, which allows me to move back and forth. So I'm able to use it to pinpoint or to select at the specific section of that bridge. Then if I leave, you can be able to see that. Okay. So it basically enables the designer to now have a proper understanding of exactly like in terms of my girder arrangement and all those kind of details. So then I can now use the various measure tools. So like I go to the measure here. So once I'm available at the measure here, I'm able to pick, sorry, the measure should be this one here. I'm able to pick the elevation, point elevation measure. So this is what I'm saying was previously not available. So if I pick point elevation, it means I want to understand the elevation just at the surface of my pier foundation. I'll pick that, and you can see it tells me the elevation. So this was not previously available. So it's like at this instant is at 1631.704 meters. If I want to understand at the next point, I'll just say I want to understand just at the pier cap level there. It again tells me. So if I want to understand the overall height of my pier, I would have taken this is 1635.45 minus, so you can just still repeat, maybe minus the next one, so like 1635, and instantly at that point, minus 630. So like barely reach about 4 meters from the surface of the foundation to the soffit of the pier cap. So which means if I'm to add with the overall maybe height of the girder and the pier cap, I'll achieve the minimum vertical clearance that's required, for example. Yeah. So they're just quickly showing it's a tool which I'm very sure some people had really struggled, because it means that before, what I needed to do for me to understand these overall elevations of the points, I needed to first link it up with the Revit. That's the bridge structure, then bring in the topo. Then I will be able to start measuring that. So I think it's a very, very good improvement that can enhance productivity and also just overall work process with the application. So like that point, I can now check just at the top of my where I'm having my bearing. So the bearing will be at the elevation of 1637.45. This is a quick measure. So there are very many, there are quite a number, as I've listed, about 4 or 5 improvements, but I think that's the quickest to show within the limited time that we are having. So if you haven't tried it out, I think it's something that would be a very good add-on to those who are working with the application. So I'll quickly switch back to my presentation again and continue, and then the next one, so just go back to presentation mode from current slide. So then the last one on InfraWorks will be the design optimization. So again, we have already seen this, so where we were largely optimizing the workflow and also the ease of making changes. So initially, I'd say that in the previous version, it used to take relatively longer time to synchronize a change from Revit into InfraWorks. So this now basically ensures that there's a reduced modeling time to accommodate design changes. So I don't have to wait for several minutes to allow a change from Revit to be reflected by InfraWorks. It right now happens almost instantaneously. So then quickly we'll move into Civil 3D as well. So again, where I'll just show the overall total number of changes, then I'll pick one of them and illustrate with my live model to again try to make us understand it better. So I'll just pick again the one that I think is relatively fast, easier to do or faster, but most important. So just like again with InfraWorks, I think the focus again is still on basically optimization and also being able to increase on productivity, or trying to now bring in the features that literally people are struggling to work with and now trying to make it better. So there is a need, the key focus for these improvements on the design efficiency and also digitization of existing transportation system, while also focusing on sustainability within the context of the project that we are working on. So there are about 7 improvements. The most important one, I think, again, is the sub-assemblies, especially for those who have a sub-assembly composer. So it's very easier now to deploy and manage various sub-assemblies that you have created from the sub-assembly composer, and actually can deploy them through the Autodesk Docs or Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro, if you have that within the picture. Then there was enhancement in the Project Explorer, pressure networks, and the overall general performance. Then in terms of GIS BIM integration, there was some improvement on the ArcGIS connector for Civil 3D. And lastly, the two which I might not show is in digitization, especially the corridor. Sorry, the two which I'll show, one of them is the corridor transition. I'll try to show corridor transition by a brief demonstration. Then there's the rail turnout API, which was developed especially for those who are within the railway design process. Like actually, I can say that within the last 2 years also, we have seen a significant improvement on railway design process within Civil 3D, just trying to ensure that it gets into the fuller level as we had also with the roadway design. So we look at each of them one by one. So sub-assembly, so I say that deploying of a sub-assembly. So it basically means this way you're working with like maybe you are working with like, let's say, tunnels and some other very awkward sections or assemblies that do not come packaged with the application. It means you need to develop them from sub-assembly composer. So what this improvement is looking at is how to deploy and manage what you have created from within sub-assembly composer for deployment and use within Civil 3D to help you manage maybe the corridor you are creating. So it means that the content creator will deploy from the sub-assembly to the project team via the Autodesk Docs, or just from within the prospector that usually manage them. Then after that, the corridor designer will consume and use the either new or updated sub-assemblies as could be. So again, that means that there will be a directional link within Civil 3D and the sub-assembly composer, because maybe after having worked with developed the assembly, you might need it changed. Okay, so there will be a bidirectional link that we can go back and revise or update the sub-assembly, and that will automatically be consumed within Civil 3D to allow the change to be effected. So the aim is just to ensure that you manage the changes within the sub-assembly process more efficiently as compared to where we have to keep on re-importing after having made the change within the sub-assembly composer. Okay. Then Project Explorer. Many people don't already use the Project Explorer. And I think it makes managing the project data very well, and also tracking the various changes in terms of maybe the number and other related properties and attributes that you're working with. So it also keeps on having updates done every year. So we have the new property set tab, and also now incorporating the actual Project Explorer within Civil 3D. Remember, previously we need to install it as an add-on. Like if you are someone who's still on 2023, you needed to install it as an add-on. So, but in the 2024 release, it comes prepackaged just as a tab or as a specific tool within Civil 3D. So I think that's the most important part, that in the 2023 version and the previous version, when it was first released, we needed to install it after having installed Civil 3D. But with the current release, it's now like a part of Civil 3D already. You don't have to install it separately, or you don't need to add it once you've installed Civil 3D. So the main aim of doing this is to basically ensure that the designers can now make quick review and do changes to various property sets and data of the objects very fast within Civil 3D without having to rely on maybe reports that they have to create. So I can be able to verify data or make changes before I have to maybe go and generate the report first, is when I do it from outside the application. Then pressure networks. So in terms of the updates here, in terms of being able to separate user-defined block for display and at the vertical bends, and also being able to display hatch patterns for pressure networks, but at the same time also being able to automate the vertical rotation of branch fittings to align with the branch slopes. I know most of our customers don't usually use Civil 3D for these purposes, but again, I can see there's continuous improvement. Though right now, I'll rather recommend for someone to use maybe Innovise than using Civil 3D for this. But what's important is that there's still improvement coming in every year on the same. So most important in terms of maybe being able to make changes to the pipe fittings, that's the T-junctions, the Ys, and the rest. You are able to maybe control their displays and automatically rotate them without having to manually do the rotation using the gizmos and the grips that I think sometimes are not accurate and will lead to repetitive tasks. So right now that has been automated while working with the pressure networks within Civil 3D. In terms of design with sustainability, so we're basically referencing GIS. It means that being able to bring that context, there is major development that you're able to bring in the CAD. So the GIS aspect into the CAD. So the sustainable part comes in from the fact that once understood the context on which I'm designing, it means I'm able to evaluate and come up with a better design that are going to be sustainable. So the improvement still keeps on coming. I think right now it's almost 4 or 5 years since this was made, and I'm very sure we are still expecting more improvement to come in to make it more efficient, especially in terms of being able to manage the various GIS data attributes within the CAD environment. Okay, so in this case, you're looking at being able to import GIS polylines, points, and polygons, and also taking them back into GIS after having developed the design. Also in terms of configuration settings, so you're able to configure and define various settings of how the information will be brought in. So initially we had kind of a limited number of settings that you'd select. So if you check like on that screenshot there, we didn't have polygons and polylines. We only had the various cargo point, feature lines, and gravity pipes. So that is a very important enhancement, that we don't have to convert it to a pipe before we bring it. It can just come in form of a line, which defines a boundary or just an extent of maybe a particular object. Then lastly, there is where there's a support to import ARC now into Stable 3D. And right now, it only happens within the GIS portal. But we hope in the next release, we'll be able to see it also on the CAD as well, not just on the GIS portal, as it is with this release. Then in terms of digitization of the transportation system, I think again, still, I think it now refers to the most important one that I'll show in live. I think people have always struggled to create transitions within the corridors, where you want to maybe first draw a line, or you maybe have to define an offset for your alignment, then target a particular corridor component or corridor part. To me, this stands out as one of the features that I really looked forward to being made available. And I think it was answered in the 2024 release. So right now you are able to create corridor transitions, or basically where they say, like, let's say I'm having a particular road geometry and I want to create maybe a bus lay-by. It's now been made very easier compared to what was available in the previous versions, where you had to either do the various offsets, maybe for the alignment, or target specific object within the corridor to be able to create a transition. So I'll show this live. So maybe I don't want to delve much on, but the concept was to understand that it was a bit tricky, or it was somehow kind of time consuming to develop a transition within a corridor. So right now I don't have to define a line which will define my corridor target, either horizontally or vertically. I can just quickly access the corridor transition, and then I'll be able to use it to define how my transition will be happening within the corridor. So this is what I'll show live. I'll log into my SafeDD and give a quick overview of it as well. So the next, we say that there is improvement in terms of rail turnout API, which again, for those who are measuring on rail infrastructure, I think it's a very great add-on. So it allows users to create already a simple turnout while being able to import design data from other software to use within Stable 3D. So especially if you are using other applications that are more efficient in design of a railway than Stable 3D, so you're able now to import that. And once you've imported it, you're able to edit the specific turnouts for that particular railway infrastructure that you are designing. So it allows owner or the company or the designer to be able to manage the specific design and drafting standard within the Stable 3D after having been imported from another third-party application that's not being used to do the detailed design at these levels. So again, the aim is just to improve the design quality and the standard of work that's being developed. So before I move to recap, I'll quickly just show, before I forget, I'll just show the corridor transition, which I had already said. So I already have my Stable 3D model with a very simple corridor or design already done, just to allow me explain this. So I'll just hide my floating meeting controls to allow full screen. Okay, so I already have the corridor. So it means that the design process of your corridor, you need to understand first how the corridor is being done. So that doesn't change. But what I want to add, I want to show quickly how that improvement has been made. So with my corridor, I just select the corridor. I'll just select the corridor. So when I select the corridor, you can see if you open 2023, you want to be having this 2023 or previous version. Initially, we only used to have corridor properties. Once I select the corridor, what I'll see under the modify corridor panel on the corridor, the contextual tab will be the corridor properties. So, but right now you can see you have the edit transition corridor being added there. So that's what I want to illustrate. So how can we use it to add a transition? And I've said I'm going to use an example. Maybe I want to add a bus lay-by within my corridor. So I'll just click on it after having selected the corridor. So it's very, very important that you follow the procedure. So like I can see right now, I'm having an empty transition. It means that my road is just as smooth as possible. So I want to say, where is my transition going to start? And what exactly am I going to target? So I don't know, maybe let me just try to minimize this so we can have a better view of most part of the corridor. Let me just put it down here. So then I can zoom out a bit. So you can see when you want to use the corridor transition that has been added, you need to know what specific subassembly are you going to transition. So you can see, like, if I am to check on my road subassembly here, I basically need to understand which the transition. For now, if I'm saying I'm going to add bus lay-by. So bus lay-by is just a widening on the actual lane, the actual roadway. So you need to first understand what exactly am I going to widen. So in that case, it's going to be the lane. And I also need to know how that lane was named within my subassembly, so within my overall assembly. So I'll just assume it is the one, which I think I was calling the lane with super elevation. So that's the first component to select. So the process is to select the subassembly that's going to be widened. Okay, so once I've selected it, I'll just click on it. It will ask me, am I widening it vertically or horizontally? So if I'm adding a bus lay-by, it means it's going to be a horizontal widening, which means it's a width. I'm going to change the width of the road at that section. But if I wanted to maybe make changes to the overall pavement structure, like in terms of the default slope, pavement 1, pavement 2, and various pavement component, then I would have selected, those are vertical widening. So in this case, I'll use the horizontal widening as an example. So you can see I've just selected the horizontal widening. And now it asks me to choose where does the widening start. So you can see the start station. So I think I can either put in the precise values here on the start station, or I can just click if I know exactly within my plan view where I want them to start. So for example, I want to say I want to start around at 600 here. So I can just click at change 600. Then it asks me at that change 600, do I want to accept it? The one I've clicked, so I'll just enter. And also, once I've entered, doesn't mean it's static. I can actually also change the precise values at the road corridor transition dialog box. So like I want it to be precisely from 600. So I'll just enter 600 there. Okay. Then what is the width that I want to input? So what's the width? The start value for the width that you can see here is the next dialog box. So I just want to ensure that the width, I want it to start at a value. I'll have to also be looking on the screen on the model. So is that 3.6 is the start. That is 3.6 is the start. It means that initially the width of my lane was 3.6. So that's what I'm starting from 3.6 while increasing it outwards. Okay. Then I want it to end at station. Maybe I can say it's going to transition maybe at 610, which means the actual transition should be achieved at, let me just say 620, like 20 meters later. After that, I want to achieve that. Okay. Then the end value at that, I want it to be at, so I just want to ensure that I double the lane so that I can, the base bus lay-by width is almost the same with the actual lane width. So it means I'm going to double at 7.2. So that's what I've just done. Then the transition, is it linear or do I want to choose a different figure? So I'm just saying going to be linear. Okay, it's going to be linear. Let me just try to push it up a bit to see what's on the farthest end and on which side of the road is it going to be on. You can see it tells me I'm on the left because that's what the side I've chosen. So what I can do, I can then quickly apply and then see how my transition has been done for me. So it's been done, though it doesn't really, I need to add a subcomponent. I think it has done it for me, but not the way I want. Remember, I need to create a transition. So I say this, it's a SATA 3.6, 620. At 620, I should have got to 7.2 meters wide. So I will add one more. And this one more that I'm adding So just drop down here, still on the lane itself, but still on the width. But I'm saying that still on the width, I want it now to start from a chain edge 600. I can just choose a random value, then I'll enter. Then I'll say that this should now start at 620, the one at the specific instant where it stopped, the one had ended, but it should continue from 7.2, which is the width I want to achieve I'd already achieved at this point, but I want it to maintain that 7.2, assuming my bus labor is going to be 50, or just put something smaller, maybe 30. So I want it to maintain 7.2 at a distance, a length of 30 meters. So 30 meters means that from 620, I'm going to add 30. I should be at 650. Okay. Then at the time it is at the end there, it should still be 7.2. Okay. Then I will still add one more, or maybe I can apply this. Then you can see the impact of what it has done. So that's basically what I've said. So it means it had started from 600, and I've said that as change 0 plus 600, the width is 3.6. That's the start value. Then it maintains that 3.6 through and increases gradually linearly to 620 to achieve a width of 7.2. So that's basically what it means. Then after having achieved a width of 7.2, I'll start widening it further at that 620 to maintain 7.2 for a 30-meter distance. So that's why it's 650 minus 620 to achieve a distance of 30 meters while maintaining the width of 7.2. So what I can do, I'll add the last one. Just click here, add. And the last one I'll want to start from now 650. So you change 650 is around somewhere. Yeah. So first need to select the width, that is the width of the road that I'm changing. And I'll put the station maybe randomly again at that point. Then I'll just put in the precise value. Enter. So once I put the precise value, that is 650. I wanted to maintain 650 to run from 7.2, bring it back to 3.0. So because remember the actual lane width was 3.0, so that's what I'm bringing it back to at 3.0. Then that 3.0 should transition at a distance of 20 meters again to allow the buses now to exit. So it means it's going to be 650 plus 20, which is going to be 670. Okay. Then by the time it should start, sorry, the start value here should be 7.2. I was forgetting that. And 7.2 starting from 650, that's at this point here where the cursor is, the width is 7.2 and the change is at 650. So I want you to transition so that from change 650, by the time I get to change 670, and I've gone back to the width of 3.6. So that's exactly what this here is saying. So just type the 3.6. Then I'll apply. And then you see, I've managed to create a transition there. I managed to create a transition there. So what I'm saying that, of course, maybe it depends. Maybe there are those of us who are used to creating it by first defining the shape or doing what we are calling the alignment offset. Then you are targeting that specific offset or object at the instant where you wanted to do the transition. But once you're familiar with this, to me, I think this is the easiest approach to use. So once you are like, I'm able to key in the precise figures, especially width and the length that I want to achieve the transition on. So to me, I prefer this than using the targets, which I think sometimes a bit complicated, especially if you're not familiar with the corridor, or if you're just getting started with corridor. I think the targets were a bit confusing and sometimes would be time consuming than this. So once I've done that, just close my corridor target dialog box. Then you can see I've added my widening at that particular area there. So the advantage of this is that the fact that I'm able to define and put in those values is what I really like. So I can now just go to my dimensions, for example. So I can just confirm that I used the precise values. Sorry, just as a start to see Now I didn't pick the precise points. I can just say from this, to starting from the center here, coming through to this point. So I'm expecting that to be 20. I don't know why it's varying, but ideally should be precisely 20. So just as an illustration, it's a very good feature that I think will make corridor modeling or modifying corridor features relatively easier and faster than it were before. So that's what I wanted to show live. So I'll show the last few features I think is on recap. Again, I think the reason again why it's important to understand the recap part, because of the increasing use of photogrammetry and laser grammetry in engineering and architecture right now. So that's why, again, the improvements within recap is also very, very important, because we are seeing increase where customers are now using photogrammetry. Customers are now doing LiDAR and mobile mapping, use of 3D laser scanners and all that. So that's why these improvements within recap are also very, very important. So the main aim is just to optimize data extraction of the existing condition. So if we, instead of using the normal traditional surveying processes, we'll see that customers want to use the 3D laser scanners. So how do they extract the data from the 3D laser scans to form the existing condition? So that's why this improvement within recap are also very, very important. So previously there was no support for Faro premium scans, which I think has been integrated now. There is the ease of classification management, like when I'm classifying my scans, there's an improvement of that. Then previously there was no desktop connector, like most of my scan data, I needed to manually upload them, or you can say previously they are not even supported within the Autodesk docs. So it means right now I can have my scans seated on my desktop, but at the same time connecting it directly through the desktop connector, to the cloud, either via the BIM Collaborate Pro or Autodesk docs, depending which of the application is being used within the project. Then there's also the web, so linear feature extraction. Right now within the recap web, you are able to perform linear feature extraction from your scans. That again was not there in the previous ones. Yeah. So I think that's basically in a nutshell what I had prepared. So the next slide will just be highlighting what I've just said, like classification, which has been extended, and also being able to now automatically manage ground classifications of various imported scans from different types of raw scans that you might have used. Then also the viewer now, you're able to extract geometry within recap online, which again, I think is very, very important. So it means that I'm able to extract these features, not only when I'm on the desktop, but even if I'm checking or viewing that data directly from within the cloud before having downloaded it on my desktop for application. And I think the live demo part I've already shown. So that's like marking the end of my presentation for the session today. So you can just jump and see if you have any questions, comments, reaction, or feedback for me at this instant.
Thank you, Elijah. That was great. If you would like to contribute, you are welcome to add it to the chat and I can read it out. If you have any questions for Elijah, you can also add it there, or you can simply just unmute and we can answer your question live. Just give everyone a minute or so just to type out anything they might have. Gabriel says it was a nice presentation, Elijah, for you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Okay, well, it seems as if we don't have any, I don't see anything coming through. If someone does have a question or anything, you can just raise your hand, or you can just give it another minute or so, well, not even a minute, a couple of seconds for you guys to just type.
Okay, then we can call it a day. If there are no questions.
Yes,
Thank
so
you, everyone.
we're going to call it and we'll give back. I know Elijah finished 5 more minutes, so we'll give you back the 5 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you at just a reminder, we do have sales team tomorrow at 11. So we hope to see some of your team there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.